Yo, yo, it's ODB from OLP. On this video, I'm going to talk about the 2025 re-release of the famed Madrid skateboard, the Valterra. And I'll talk a little bit about a few things and the opportunity that you have to go out and snag one while supplies last. So this video, I'm really just going to kind of cover this. We're not affiliated with them whatsoever. However, if you know me, you know that I'm a big Back to the Future fan. Behind me, I've got an entire display case dedicated to some of the things I've collected over the course of 40 years, give or take. I can't believe it's been that long since the film was released. July of good old 1985. So pretty cool stuff. At the end of this video, I'm going to link to an unboxing that I did with the Madrid skateboard that I picked up in 2019 into 2020. For some reason, in my mind, I keep thinking I got one in the 2015 run. But just to give a quick update, in that video that I did about 5 years ago in January 2020, I teamed up with my buddy John at 3Js, and we did what I thought was a pretty cool unboxing. I've got a lot of good feedback on it. But in that video, I'll break down a little bit of the numbers and some of the limited runs. I believe 2019 was the biggest run that they did. And for those that don't know, essentially they've changed a little bit. They've added some Easter eggs over the course of time, but there's a podcast, if you want to go check it out, the Bones Brigade audio show. And they recently had the gentleman who's the brand manager, kind of the marketing guy, if you will, of Madrid, which is super awesome. So he gives some good detail on it. Now, I believe in my unboxing video, I forgot to mention this, but I have since in social media, this was considered the nuclear version. And again, this is the last run that they did back in good old 2019. They did 2 runs. I think they did a very limited run, maybe testing the waters, and that essentially led to a bigger run that they did, which is when I snagged this. And what I'll do is I'll try to zoom in here. There's been Easter eggs on each of these, but essentially right here, there's a little nuclear think flux capacitor, think nuclear icon, nuclear emoji, which I use a lot on my Back to the Future Legacy Instagram page, if you want to follow me there. I don't post a lot, but I love posting like very, very, very small Easter eggs and just, little facts about the film. So I'll post that kind of stuff there. This board was excellent. I know there's some crazy purists out there and they talk about it on the Bones Brigade audio show. I love screen accurate stuff. I do, but I don't get down to the point where I am, measuring things and going to crazy in-depth scenarios to complain about a particular product. This board to me definitely check the boxes. I just wanted one, and it has the look and feel, whether you're a DeLorean person and you're going to these meetups, especially in California. Shout out to Eric at Back to the Future IG. These guys are doing crazy meetups and going to the McFly house and things like that. But whether you're that type of individual or a casual fan, mine is typically right up here by this custom one-off Back to the Future sign my mother-in-law got me. And it's more just the nostalgia of it, which the Bones Brigade audio show talks about with the gentleman, the marketing manager. He mentions that a lot of us, the people that are consuming this product are casual fans, they're movie fans. Really, I think to sum it up, pop culture fans. This one definitely checked the boxes for me. I was happy, and I covered that in that other video. What he talks about, and I'll give this brief overview before I show you how you can get in and buy one of these, is they went to extreme lengths in the 2025 version with the flywheels. They were able to make new molds. So he talks about that. The trucks, he talks about the controversy, I guess you could say, on the trucks over the course of time. Again, when you're a fan of something, you can sometimes go down some crazy bunny trails and you can get very, very, very particular. He talks about the fact that in the film, for those that don't know, they were tracker trucks. However, that's not a brand underneath the umbrella of Madrid. So they talk about using the trucks that were originally intended for the board, which I believe were Cadillacs. Well, excuse me, they were underground trucks, which I think Jerry Madrid was in the process of launching around that time. They weren't finished with production. Talks about the trucks being a little wide on these. Talks about these, the guards, if you will. These were a little bit wide. So just some extreme stuff. And although he mentions in that interview the challenge with dealing with people that become toxic, believe me, I've dealt with those type of folks as well. None of us want those kind of folks on our pages, certainly. But you got to appreciate it. He does throw a little nod to the fact that people are passionate about this stuff. And that's a good thing in many ways, but you just don't want to become toxic with it. But for me, this checked all the boxes. Now, being a collector and loving pop culture and loving arguably my favorite film of all time, definitely my favorite film franchise of all time, Back to the Future, I had to get in on the 2025 as well. I'll show you here in just a few minutes or less the items that were up, and they're still up, although they are limited. I also want to give a shout out because what they did in the past is this limited run. They basically gave a certificate of authenticity, and what was neat is it says this is a limited 2019 edition skateboard replica of Marty McFly's Madrid / Valterra skateboard featured in the film Back to the Future. The board was manufactured in the USA, so that's sometimes a bone of contention. They make their boards at their headquarters there in California by Madrid in conjunction with Valterra under the supervision of, believe it or not, Bob Gale and Joe Walser. So two guys, if you're a fan of the film, you know those names certainly, which was fantastic. Now, even though Joe Walser and Bob Gale were tied into it, you would say, well, wow, how can you make it any better? Well, certainly you can. I'm going to give you another example here. In that video, I talk about this was a spin-off Matty collector at the time. We're talking mid 2000s, something like that. I have the receipt somewhere, but this was something that Matty Collector had put out, and I think they've since launched a separate division. It's not called Matty Collector anymore, but with this, Bob Gale was involved as well, if I recall correctly, because there was a video that was done, was an interview, and he talked about how amazing this was, and I still think this is amazing. It has a accelerometer type function in it where when you pick it up, it has a little speaker built in, and it makes the sounds from the film. They talked about the level of detail that they went through was just insane. However, there was a little bit of controversy once this came out, and one of those controversies, if I remember correctly, is someone literally counted I call it the spikes on the Mattel logo here, and they were like, there's two, there's not as many as there's supposed to be, and things like that. Those are the things that, although I appreciate listening to those type of facts, I love podcasts and I love those type of things, I don't get all hung up on that. I'm not screenshotting something and zooming in, to this amazing detail to find out, and then going to complain about a product like this. This thing was like $125 back then, and I think it was some of the best money spent on a pop culture item that I own. Of course, mine is down here in the display case, but not only did you get the hoverboard at that time, you also got the little mini hoverboard that had the handlebars on it, and you also got this box, which rarely do I see folks talk about that. So this video is not about the hoverboard, but it does tie in because, again, Bob Gale, I believe, worked in conjunction and kind of gave his approval pre-production on this one. And I believe there was an interview where he had said afterwards, there were some people a little bit disgruntled over the fact that it wasn't 100% screen accurate. That also ties into the Bones Brigade audio show where the gentleman from Madrid, who's the brand manager, wasn't there when they did these other ones. I think 2015 for sure, and prior. Don't recall if he said he was there in 2019 into 2020, but without further ado, let's jump in and I'll show you here what we're looking at. Okay, if we go to Madrid skateboards, being that this is kind of the hot and heavy topic, it's right here on their homepage. We're headed back. 2025 marks 40 years of the film Back to the Future. As I mentioned, we also have t-shirts available along with another limited special item. Click below to pre-order. So they talked about in the Bones Brigade audio show, which I'll link to in the description. What they're referring to is the Marty collection, which is fantastic. Now you can imagine as well that with the fires, unfortunately, that happened in very early 2025, we're very fortunate that a lot of these places apparently were not destroyed. But what my gut feeling is too, sometimes, although there's a big push from the fans to relaunch this kind of stuff, we've seen different companies that were negatively impacted that have launched, relaunched, reissue type things to help bring some funds to the region, whether it's their individual business or for charity and things like that. So I can't say for sure that was any motivating factor, but certainly knowing that these folks are in California, that also led to my desire to want to spend a little bit of money because so many people, whether their business was impacted or not, their homes, potentially friends, family, you name it. So what essentially you have is this out of time street deck. So this deck, if you hover over it, it's going to show you the front. It's got the Madrid logo. Well, the Madrid wording that's similar ties into the license plate, of course, in that era. If you're a fan of the film, you know, of course, the out of time license plate. So what they've done is kind of recreate those California license plates at that time, which and then essentially put the out of time there. So this would be obviously a really good one, in my opinion, to display like landscape because you've got that license plate type look. Then you have the Valterra Madrid skateboard. And of course, it says $125. Here's the cool thing that they did. And if I remember correctly, they did this when I did the pre order as well. This is something where you can purchase either the complete deck with the trucks, the wheels, and the guards, or you can get a deck only. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see the deck only is, let's call it $125. The complete is $150 more, and you're getting a lot more as well because, again, you're getting a complete deck. Now, if you're a person that only has skate decks, to me, $125, you're paying that premium for the limited run. You're getting your hands on one. And I think it's totally awesome. The sticker is placed there on the front and back. There's two on the back, or on the bottom rather, and then there's one on the front. And they do individually hand place those on these decks. There's also the Marty tee, which I mentioned, which I think is super cool. Again, you know, you'll see any kind of premium t-shirt easily, you know, hit 30 to 35. We've seen some different streetwear brands over the years, you know, at $50 price point. So I think the $34.95 is very fair. And that is also a pre-sale, pre-order item. And then there's two more things I was going to say lastly, but the last two things is you have the Valterra shop mat. They talk about it in the audio where there was one of these produced. That was it. It was at their shop. They constantly had people asking, hey, I would like to buy that, you know, owning kind of that one-off item. But, oh, by the way, something from the actual Madrid skate shop. They've, of course, declined that. And this was a unique opportunity to say, wow, let's go ahead and offer these. I think it's pretty cool. And when they do these limited runs, I think they said they're going to do 100 and oh no, excuse me, this one's limited to 88, and that's something else I wanted to point out because the production numbers tie into the films. I'm glad I remember this. You have the complete. They're doing 2,025 of these, if I remember correctly. And I may have this backwards. Yeah, the completes, it says right here, 2025 complete, so 2025. And then you've got 1985 single decks, right? Just the deck. And that comes out to like 4,010 or whatever it is. Yeah, not the best in math there off the top of my head. But next, you've got the 3D rubber Valterra keychain. And this is great because it gives you a price point that maybe you're in a situation where you can't really splurge on a complete or a deck in general or the mat. You've got a $9.95 price point here, which is fantastic. I love the colors, and I always like to try to tie in a keychain to a vehicle that I own. And my 64 Lincoln Continental convertibles here, which ironically, years ago, Santa Monica Airlines did a re-release of some older style tour merch, and there was a 65 Lincoln on one of their shirts, which I was blown away. I had to buy that, of course. But on my 64 Lincoln, I've got, you know, this like kind of pink and blue, kind of smuggler's blues, which is the name of the car, but that Miami Vice era look to it. So this would be, in my opinion, a great keychain to add to the keys for Smuggler's Blues. So there you have it, maybe a little bit more in depth. If you jumped around to the different chapter points here, certainly you got maybe the information you were looking for. Check out the video that's about to play right here or right here. And thank you so much for the support. If you like what we're doing, check us out on YouTube, or the other videos that we have, and also on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. However you consume podcasts, there's a lot of content there. But I would encourage you, YouTube is really where it's at because we have the visuals for all of our videos from 2024 going forward. Take care. Thank you so much, Valterra. And again, huge shout out to Eric, my homie from Back to the Future IG on Instagram. Great dude. And recently had him on in 2025 as we started to celebrate. Maybe it was 2024, as we begin to celebrate here the 40th anniversary of arguably a perfect film, Back to the Future, from 1985. Take care, everyone. ODB, we at ya. Peace.